Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going beyond the headlines and really exploring Tata Consultancy Services.
TCS.
TCS. Yeah, you might know them as that. You probably heard the name, but
Yeah.
let's really understand this tech giant.
Right.
We've got financials, shareholding patterns, and industry analyses,
Wow.
enough to make your head spin. But don't worry, we're here to help make sense of it all.
What's really intriguing about TCS is that it's really more than just lines of code. It's almost like it embodies this journey that India has taken to become this global tech force.
So it's not just about building apps, right?
Well,
What
right.
makes them stand out?
They go way beyond just writing software. TCS positions themselves as being consulting-led, cognitive-powered.
Okay.
So they don't just build solutions. They help businesses completely transform themselves for the digital world.
Wow.
Think of them as partners in a company's digital evolution.
Okay, so they've got this global reach and a diverse approach.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get into the nitty-gritty. What about their financials?
Well, one of the first things you notice is their presence on some major stock exchanges like the BSE Sensex and Nifty 50 in India.
Right.
That means they're key players in those markets.
Mm.
But what's really interesting is that they're listed on several other global indices.
Okay.
So they're part of a lot of different investment strategies worldwide.
So they're really playing on this global scale.
Yeah.
But where does all that revenue actually come from?
So if you look at their revenue breakdown for Q2 of fiscal year 2024,
Okay.
their biggest client base, over 32%, is in banking and financial services.
Wow.
But don't let that fool you. They've got a pretty diverse portfolio.
Okay.
They're working with companies in consumer goods, healthcare, even energy.
So they're not putting all their eggs in one basket, so to speak.
Exactly.
That's a good sign, right?
It absolutely is that diversity helps them weather economic ups and downs. And while we're on the topic of strengths, let's dive into some of their financials.
Okay.
One of the things that really stands out is that they're virtually debt-free.
Yeah. At almost debt-free status really caught my eye, too.
Mhm.
What does that actually mean for someone like me who's not a financial expert?
It means they're not burdened by borrowed money,
Right.
which gives them a lot of flexibility to invest in new opportunities or weather any economic storms that might come their way.
Makes sense, but what about their profitability?
Mm.
Are they actually making money?
Look at their return on equity, or ROE.
Okay.
It's been consistently above 47% for the past 3 years.
Wow.
That's really impressive.
Mm-hmm.
It shows they're using their capital very efficiently to generate profits.
Okay, so they're making good money, but what about us, the potential investors? How do
Yeah.
we benefit?
Well, TCS has a healthy dividend payout ratio of 66.2%.
Okay.
This means they give back a good chunk of their profits to their shareholders through dividends.
Right.
For investors, this could translate to a pretty nice stream of passive income.
So far, it sounds like a pretty sweet deal,
Mm-hmm.
but there have to be some downsides, right?
Of course.
No company is perfect.
Yeah. There are always things to consider.
Right.
Their sales growth over the past 5 years has been lagging a bit at 10.5%.
Okay.
In a fast-paced industry like tech,
Yeah.
you want to see companies constantly pushing the boundaries.
Hmm.
So this is something to keep an eye on.
And I noticed their stock is trading at almost 15 times its book value.
Mm.
Can you explain what book value is and
Yeah.
why this is significant?
Book value is essentially the company's net worth.
Okay.
So what's left if you sold all its assets and paid off all its debts?
Right.
When a stock trades at a much higher price than its book value,
Mm-hmm.
it usually means the market has very high expectations for the company's future earnings.
So it's like the market's betting big on TCS.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This can be good if the company lives up to the hype,
Right.
but it can also be risky.
Of course.
If they don't meet those expectations, the stock price could take a hit.
So some potential growth concerns
Yeah.
and maybe a bit of a lofty valuation.
Mm-hmm.
How does TCS stack up against its competition?
It's important to remember that TCS is constantly being compared to other major software companies in India.
Right.
Their success isn't just about the raw numbers.
Mm-hmm.
It's about how they measure up against the competition. Think of it like a constant race to innovate and deliver value.
Right.
We won't go deep into the peer comparison data right now,
Okay.
but it is helpful context to keep in mind.
Makes sense. Now let's talk about who actually owns this behemoth.
Okay.
We have the shareholding pattern breakdown, right?
Yes, and this gives us some insight into who really holds the reins.
Okay.
Notice how the promoters consistently hold more than 72% of the shares.
Wow.
These are likely the Tata family and related entities.
Wow, that's a huge chunk of the company.
Yeah.
Doesn't that give them a lot of control?
It absolutely does.
Okay.
They have a very strong controlling interest in the company. Now look at the trends for foreign portfolio investors, and domestic institutional investors?
Hmm.
Are they increasing or decreasing their stake in TCS?
That's a really good point. Tracking how those big investors are behaving,
Yeah,
it can give us a clue about how they view TCS's future. It's almost like we're peeking behind the curtain to see who's pulling the strings.
exactly. And these patterns can provide valuable insight when you're trying to evaluate a company. But remember, TCS is part of the Tata Group,
Right.
one of India's most respected and influential conglomerates.
Right.
That's a factor that can't be ignored.
We touched on the Tata legacy earlier,
Hmm.
but I'm still curious how being part of this larger group actually impacts TCS on a day-to-day basis.
It goes beyond just having the Tata name on their website.
Yeah.
The Tata Group has a long and well-established reputation for social responsibility and ethical business practices.
Right?
And that reputation is a powerful asset for TCS, especially when they're working with global clients who prioritize those values.
So it's almost like this built-in trust factor.
Precisely. It's
Yeah.
intangible, but it's a significant advantage in a competitive market.
So it sounds like TCS isn't just focused on the bottom line. There's a sense of purpose woven into their business model, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. The Tata Group has always believed in using business as a force for good in society.
Mhm.
And TCS really reflects that philosophy.
Right.
You can see it in their commitment to employee development, their focus on sustainable practices,
Okay.
and their various philanthropic initiatives.
It's really interesting to see how those values actually translate into a company's operations.
Hmm.
It's definitely something I'll be paying closer attention to as I learn more about other companies. So we've got a company that's financially solid, globally connected, ethically grounded, and backed by this powerful conglomerate.
Right.
It all seems pretty impressive, but I know you cautioned us earlier about potential risks.
Mhm.
What are some things that could actually disrupt TCS's success?
Well, for all their strengths, they still operate in a rapidly evolving industry.
Right.
No company is immune to the forces of disruption, especially in the tech world.
That makes sense. What are some of those big challenges lurking on the horizon that could impact a company like TCS?
I think the one word that sums it up is disruption.
Okay.
The tech landscape is in constant flux.
Yeah.
Artificial intelligence, automation, cloud computing.
Right.
These technologies are changing the game for everyone, including industry giants like TCS.
So how does a company of that size and scale adapt to such a rapidly changing environment?
It comes down to their ability to constantly evolve their offerings and stay ahead of the curve.
Okay.
They need to be proactive, not reactive.
Right.
They're already making moves in areas like AI and cloud solutions, but the key to long-term success will be their ability to anticipate future trends
Mm-hmm.
and be nimble enough to adapt to unexpected shifts in the market.
It's almost like they're trying to steer this massive ship through a constantly changing sea.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
They need to be able to change course quickly
Right.
while keeping their long-term goals in sight.
Okay, so innovation and adaptability are key. What else should we be considering when we think about TCS's future?
One critical factor that often gets overlooked is talent.
Hmm.
The IT services industry is all about people.
Right.
Skilled engineers, developers, and consultants.
Mm-hmm.
TCS's ability to attract and retain top talent will be crucial to their continued success.
I imagine that's a challenge in such a competitive industry.
It absolutely is. It's like a constant race to find and nurture the best and brightest minds.
Right.
And with the rise of remote work and global talent pools,
Yeah.
TCS needs to make itself a magnet for those top professionals.
So it's not just about being a technology leader, it's about being a talent leader as well.
Exactly. They need to create a work environment that fosters innovation, learning, and growth.
Right.
That's what will keep them ahead in the talent game.
This whole conversation is really giving me a new perspective on how to evaluate companies. It's not just about looking at their financials.
Right.
It's about understanding those larger forces shaping the industry and the company's position within that dynamic landscape.
You've hit the nail on the head.
Mm.
It's about connecting the dots
Yeah.
between those financial numbers
Right.
and the human stories behind them.
So after all this, what's the big takeaway?
Right.
What does the future hold for TCS?
I think the key takeaway here is that TCS is standing at a crossroads.
Okay.
They've built an incredibly strong foundation,
Right.
but they're now faced with the challenge of maintaining their momentum in a world that's changing faster than ever.
So it's not just about riding the wave, it's about staying ahead of it.
Precisely. The next few years will be crucial for TCS.
Okay.
Will they be able to reignite that sales growth we talked about earlier?
Right.
Can they continue to justify their high market valuation?
It sounds like they're at the edge of a new frontier,
Yeah.
and the path forward is anything but certain. But it's also exciting, isn't it?
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
The choices they make today will determine their trajectory for years to come.
Wow.
And that makes it fascinating to watch.
We've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
But I have one final question for you before we move on.
I'm all ears.
With all this talk about AI and automation reshaping the tech landscape,
Right.
what are some concrete ways TCS could adapt its offerings to stay competitive? That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
How can a company like TCS, known for its IT services,
Right.
actually harness these disruptive forces like AI and automation to its advantage?
It's a question a lot of companies are grappling with right now. For TCS, it's not just about adding a sprinkle of AI to their existing services.
Right.
They need to rethink their approach from the ground up.
So what does that look like in practical terms? What are some specific areas where they could really make a difference?
One area where I think TCS could really shine is in helping companies leverage AI for smarter decision-making.
So using data and algorithms to make better business decisions.
Exactly. TCS has this unique combination of deep expertise in data analytics and extensive industry-specific knowledge.
Oh.
That puts them in a strong position to become a leader in helping companies make sense of their data and use it strategically.
I can see how that would be valuable.
Yeah.
They could help companies identify hidden patterns, predict future trends, and ultimately make more informed and strategic choices.
You got it. And this isn't just for big corporations.
Right.
TCS could play a role in democratizing access to AI, making these powerful tools available to smaller businesses and organizations that might not have the resources to develop them in-house.
So they could be the bridge between this cutting-edge technology
Right.
and real-world applications, helping companies of all sizes unlock the potential of AI.
Now you're getting it. It's
Yeah.
a massive opportunity,
Yeah.
and one where TCS could really differentiate itself. Now let's talk about automation.
Okay.
This is another area where TCS needs to be strategic and thoughtful in how it leverages this technology.
It seems like automation could be a double-edged sword. How can TCS make sure it's using this technology responsibly and effectively?
That's the key question. On one hand, automation can help them streamline their own internal operations,
Right.
make them more efficient and reduce costs.
So they can do more with less.
Exactly.
Okay.
But it's crucial that they approach automation ethically.
Okay.
They need to ensure it complements their workforce and enhances their skills rather than displacing jobs.
That's a really important point. It's about finding the right balance between human expertise and technological efficiency.
Absolutely. TCS needs to invest in upskilling and reskilling its workforce, empowering them to work alongside these automation technologies rather than being replaced by them.
So it's not about eliminating jobs, but about evolving them to fit this new landscape.
Precisely. And this is where TCS's commitment to employee development and continuous learning becomes even more important. They need to foster a culture of adaptation and lifelong learning within the company.
We've explored a lot of possibilities and potential challenges. What's the bottom line? What should we, the listeners, take away from this deep dive into TCS?
Here's the key takeaway. TCS is a company at a pivotal point in its journey.
Okay.
They've built an incredible foundation, but the next chapter of their story is yet to be written. Their success will depend on their ability to embrace these disruptive forces, make bold decisions, and continue to innovate.
It's almost like we're watching them in real time as they figure out how to navigate this uncharted territory.
And that's what makes it so fascinating. They have all the ingredients for success, the resources, the talent, the legacy. But ultimately, their future will be determined by the choices they make today.
This deep dive has been incredibly eye-opening. We've gone way beyond the headlines to understand the complexities of this global tech giant. We've explored their financial prowess, their commitment to ethical practices, the challenges they face, and the exciting possibilities that lie ahead.
We've only scratched the surface, but hopefully we've given you the tools and insights to continue exploring on your own.
Exactly. And remember, this is just the beginning of your journey. We encourage you to continue researching, asking questions, and forming your own opinions about TCS and its place in the future of technology.
Knowledge is most powerful when it's understood and applied. So keep learning, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into TCS. We'll see you next time, ready to explore another fascinating corner of the business world.